In the shadow of the sprawling Hawthorne estate, perched on the misty hills of upstate New York, Elijah Harlan knelt in the dirt, his hands buried deep in the soil as he coaxed life from the stubborn earth. The grand mansion, often called the castle by locals for its towering turrets and stone facade reminiscent of old European fortresses, loomed behind him like a judgmental sentinel. But on this crisp autumn morning, as whispers of ridicule echoed from the staff quarters, Elijah felt the sting of isolation sharper than any thorn, until a secret letter arrived that would upend everything. Elijah had always been the quiet type, his days filled with the rhythmic clip of shears and the soft rustle of leaves. At 32, with sun-kissed skin and eyes the color of storm clouds, he tended the gardens with a passion that bordered on devotion. The estate belonged to the wealthy Hawthorne family, old money rooted in shipping fortunes from the Gilded Age. Old Mr. Hawthorne, the patriarch, had passed away 6 months ago, leaving his widow, Eleanor, and their 3 children, 2 sons, Richard and Thomas, and a daughter, Lydia, to squabble over the inheritance. Elijah was just the gardener, an outsider in their eyes, especially after they discovered his sexuality 2 years back during a staff holiday party. It started with sly comments from Richard, the eldest, a burly lawyer with a penchant for conservative politics. "Careful with those flowers, Elijah," he'd sneer. "Don't want them turning delicate." The laughter that followed from the others cut deep, but Elijah swallowed it, focusing on the blooms that never judged. What they didn't know was that Elijah's connection to the estate ran deeper than mulch and manure. His mother, Maria, had been a maid here decades ago, sharing a forbidden romance with young Mr. Hawthorne before he married Eleanor for status. Elijah was the result, hidden away to avoid scandal. Growing up in a modest apartment in nearby Albany, he'd only learned the truth from his mother's deathbed confession 5 years ago. She urged him to keep silent, fearing the Hawthornes' wrath. So he took the gardener job, drawn by an unspoken pull to the place that should have been his home. But silence bred resentment, and the mockery grew bolder. Thomas, the younger son, a playboy with a trust fund, would mimic Elijah's gait with exaggerated flair during family gatherings, while Lydia, sharp-tongued and ambitious, whispered about keeping the grounds free of weeds and other undesirables. Even the staff joined in, their loyalty bought by the Hawthornes' coin. Amid the thorns of prejudice, Elijah found solace in Jamie, the estate's young mechanic. Jamie was 28, with tousled brown hair and a smile that could melt frost. He'd arrived a year ago from a small town in Ohio, fleeing his own family's rejection after coming out. Their first real conversation happened under a willow tree during a rainstorm, sharing a thermos of coffee as thunder rolled. "You ever feel like the world's just waiting to trip you up?" Jamie had asked, his voice barely above the patter of rain. Elijah nodded, and from there, a quiet bond formed. Stolen glances in the garage, late-night walks through the gardens, hands brushing as they passed tools. It wasn't flashy. It was real, built on shared wounds and whispered dreams. Jamie dreamed of opening his own auto shop, while Elijah confided his secret heritage, swearing him to secrecy. "One day, maybe it'll all make sense," Elijah said, his voice laced with hope and fear. But the Hawthornes' disdain escalated. One evening, as Elijah pruned the rose bushes near the main house, Richard confronted him. "Heard you've got a little friend in the garage. Keep that nonsense away from the family grounds, Harlan. We don't need your kind corrupting the place." Elijah's cheeks burned, but he held his tongue, retreating to the potting shed where Jamie waited. "They're blind, Elijah," Jamie murmured, pulling him into a hug. "But we see each other." That night, under the stars, they shared their first kiss, a tentative spark amid the darkness. Yet, the next day brought the letter, a sealed envelope from Mr. Hawthorne's lawyer, delivered discreetly to Elijah's cottage on the estate's edge. His hands trembled as he opened it. DNA tests confirmed. A hidden codicil in the will named him the true heir. The castle was his. Shock rippled through him like a quake. He confided in Jamie, who urged caution. This could change everything, or destroy us. Elijah paced the small living room, heart pounding. Claiming the inheritance meant exposing the affair, the bastard child, the lies. It meant facing the Hawthorns' fury, the town's gossip, and perhaps losing the quiet life he'd built. But the mockery echoed in his mind, fueling a resolve. "I've hidden long enough," he said. As word leaked, perhaps from a nosy staffer, the estate buzzed with tension. Eleanor, elegant and icy, summoned Elijah to the drawing room. "What absurdity is this?" she demanded, her voice sharp as glass. Richard and Thomas flanked her, faces twisted in disbelief. Lydia hovered in the background, eyes calculating. Elijah stood tall, the letter in hand. "It's the truth, ma'am. Your husband was my father." The room erupted. Richard lunged forward, spitting accusations of fraud. "You? A gardener? And a deviant at that? This is preposterous." Thomas laughed bitterly. "The castle going to some queer outsider? Over my dead body." Eleanor paled, clutching her pearls. "Maria, I suspected, but this? You'll ruin us." Elijah felt the weight of their stares, the societal chains tightening. In a town where old values clashed with modern shifts, being gay was still a battleground. Neighbors whispered about traditional families, and the Hawthorns embodied that elite resistance. Jamie stood by him that night as Elijah wrestled with doubt. "What if they're right? What if I don't belong?" Jamie cupped his face. "You belong wherever you choose to fight for." The conflict brewed, setting the stage for revelations that would test loyalties and shatter illusions. The days following the letter's revelation turned the Hawthorne estate into a pressure cooker of whispers and glares. Elijah avoided the main house, burying himself in the gardens, but the soil no longer felt like sanctuary. Every rustle of leaves seemed to carry accusations, and the once vibrant blooms wilted under the chill of impending storm. Jamie, sensing Elijah's turmoil, suggested a drive into town to clear their heads, but even that escape brought confrontation. A local diner where stares followed them like shadows. Back at the estate, the Hawthorns plotted. Richard, ever the strategist, hired private investigators to dig into Elijah's past, hoping to unearth dirt that could discredit the claim. "He's nothing but a gold digger hiding behind his preferences," Richard snarled during a family meeting in the opulent library, shelves lined with leather-bound tomes that spoke of privilege. Thomas nodded, nursing a scotch. "And that mechanic boyfriend? Makes it all the more disgusting. We can't let this stand." Lydia, more pragmatic, suggested a buyout. Offer him money to disappear. Preserve the family name. Eleanor, torn between grief for her late husband and rage at his betrayal, wavered. "He looks like him, you know. Those eyes." Elijah, unaware of the scheming, focused on the legalities. He met with the lawyer, Mr. Hargrove, in a dusty office in Albany. Hargrove, a kindly man with wire-rimmed glasses, confirmed the will's authenticity. "Your father wanted to make amends, Elijah, but claiming it means court battles. The Hawthorns won't go quietly." Elijah nodded, resolve hardening. "I've been quiet too long." Returning to the estate, he found Jamie waiting in the garage, tools scattered like forgotten dreams. "How'd it go?" Jamie asked, wiping grease from his hands. Elijah pulled him close. "It's real, but it'll get ugly." Their embrace lingered, a quiet defiance against the world's noise. Ugliness arrived swiftly. That evening, as Elijah tended the herb garden, Thomas ambushed him. "You think you can waltz in here with your sob story and steal our home? You're a joke. A gay joke at that." The words hit like fists, echoing the playground taunts Elijah endured as a kid. He straightened, voice steady. "This isn't about theft. It's about truth." Thomas laughed, shoving him lightly. "Truth? In this town, truth is what the powerful say it is." Jamie, overhearing from afar, rushed over. "Back off, Thomas." The tension crackled. 3 men in a standoff under the setting sun. Thomas sneered at Jamie. "Oh, the lover boy. How quaint. Keep your filth out of our family business." The incident spread like wildfire among the staff. Some sympathized with Elijah, having endured the Hawthorns' haughtiness themselves. Maria's old friends, now retired, sent anonymous notes of support. But others, fearing job loss, sided with the family. The town buzzed too. Gossip at the country club, where the Hawthorns held sway. Can you believe it? That gardener claiming the castle? And he's, one matron whispered. Social divides deepened, with progressive voices clashing against conservative holdouts. Elijah felt the isolation keenly, but Jamie's presence anchored him. Late nights, they'd sit on the cottage porch, sharing stories. My folks disowned me when I came out, Jamie confessed. Said I was choosing sin over family. Elijah squeezed his hand. We're our own family now. As legal proceedings loomed, Richard escalated. He leaked stories to the local paper, painting Elijah as an opportunist exploiting a grieving family. Headlines screamed, "Bastard son or bold fraud? Hawthorne heir drama unfolds." Protests formed outside the estate gates, some anti-gay placards from fringe groups, others supporting LGBTQ rights. Elijah's phone rang with threats, anonymous voices hissing slurs. "Stay in your dirt, fairy." Jamie urged him to fight back. "Go public. Own your story." Elijah hesitated, fearing more pain, but agreed. In a tearful interview with a sympathetic reporter, he shared his mother's tale, his hidden life, and his love for Jamie. "I'm not here to destroy. I just want what's mine, and to live without shame." The article exploded, dividing the community. Supporters rallied, sending flowers to the gardens. Detractors vandalized the estate's walls with hateful graffiti. Eleanor, reading the piece, felt a crack in her armor. She confronted her children. "Your father wasn't perfect. Maybe we owe Elijah something." Richard exploded. "Owe him? For what? Existing." The family fractured, Lydia siding with her mother, Thomas with Richard. Amid the chaos, Elijah and Jamie's bond deepened. One stormy night, as rain hammered the roof, Elijah whispered, "I couldn't do this without you." Jamie kissed him softly. "We're in it together." But betrayal lurked. A staffer, bribed by Richard, stole documents from Elijah's cottage, twisting them to suggest forgery. Hargrove called in panic. "They're challenging everything." Court dates set. Elijah's world spun. Doubt crept in. Was this worth the fight? Jamie held him as he cried, vowing, "We'll prove them wrong." The high stakes mounted, pushing toward a climax where truths would collide and choices would define legacies. Court day dawned clear and crisp. The Albany courthouse, a stoic brick building amid bustling streets. Elijah adjusted his tie in the mirror, Jamie's reassuring hand on his shoulder. "You've got this," Jamie said, his voice a steady anchor in the sea of nerves. The Hawthorns arrived in force, Richard leading with a smug grin, flanked by high-powered attorneys. Eleanor looked frail, Lydia conflicted, Thomas glaring daggers. The gallery filled with townsfolk, reporters, and activists, a microcosm of America's cultural wars. Inside, the judge, a stern woman named Harlan, no relation, called order. Hargrove presented the evidence. DNA results, the codicil, Maria's letters. Mr. Hawthorne acknowledged his son privately, intending to rectify the oversight. Richard's team countered fiercely. "This is extortion masked as sentiment." Elijah Harlan is an interloper, his lifestyle incompatible with the family's values. Gasps rippled through the room as they paraded character witnesses, former staff decrying Elijah's influence on the estate. One, a grizzled butler, testified. "He's brought his partner around, flaunting it. Not fitting for Hawthorne legacy." Elijah's heart ached, the prejudice laid bare. When his turn came, he took the stand, voice trembling at first. "I didn't ask for this. I loved my mother and she loved this place. The mockery I've endured because of who I am, it's wrong. But I'm not here for revenge. I'm here for justice." Jamie watched from the benches, pride swelling despite the tension. Cross-examination was brutal. Richard's lawyer sneered. "Isn't it convenient, discovering this now? And with your relationship, perhaps seeking attention." Elijah met his gaze. "Love isn't a convenience. It's real, like my claim." Outside during recess, Protesters clashed, rainbow flags waving against signs reading, "Protect Family Values." A scuffle broke out, police intervening. Jamie pulled Elijah aside in a quiet hallway. "They're scared because you're challenging their world." Elijah nodded, drawing strength from his touch. Back in session, Eleanor surprised everyone by testifying. "I knew about Maria. My husband confessed years ago. I chose to ignore it for the children." Tears glistened. "But Elijah, he's suffered enough." Richard fumed, whispering furiously to Thomas. Lydia, breaking ranks, added, "We've been cruel. Maybe it's time to share." The judge recessed for deliberation, leaving the parties in limbo. That night, back at the estate, Elijah and Jamie walked the gardens under moonlight. "What if we lose?" Elijah asked. Jamie stopped, facing him. "Then we build our own castle. Together." Their kiss was fervent, a promise amid uncertainty. But shadows moved. Thomas, lurking, snapped a photo on his phone. "Evidence," he muttered, plotting to leak it and stir more scandal. The next day, the photo hit social media, courtesy of an anonymous account. Captions screamed, "Hawthorne heirs gay affair exposed." Outrage poured in, support from allies, vitriol from foes. Elijah's inbox flooded with messages, some uplifting, others vile. "You're brave," one read. "Burn in hell," another. The estate became a siege, reporters camping at gates. Richard capitalized, holding a press conference. "This proves our point. The castle deserves better than scandal." Jamie targeted too, face sabotage, tools gone missing, tires slashed. "They're trying to break us," he said, frustration boiling. In a desperate move, Elijah confronted the family privately in the drawing room. "End this. We can coexist." Eleanor softened. "Perhaps a settlement." But Richard refused. "Over my body." Thomas smirked. "Or yours." The threat hung heavy. Lydia pulled Elijah aside later. "Richard's unhinged. Be careful." Her warning proved prescient. That night, Elijah found his cottage ransacked, documents scattered. Jamie helped clean, their bond a shield. "We fight on," Elijah declared. As trial resumed, Hargrove dropped a bombshell. A recorded confession from Mr. Hawthorne, hidden in a safe. "Elijah is my son. The estate is his." The audio played, the old man's voice frail but firm. The courtroom stunned. Richard paled, Thomas stormed out. The judge ruled in Elijah's favor. Full inheritance, with provisions for the family to stay if amicable. Cheers and boos erupted. Outside, Elijah embraced Jamie amid flashing cameras. "We did it," he whispered. But victory tasted bittersweet. The cost of exposed wounds, fractured ties. Eleanor approached later, extending a hand. "Forgive us." Elijah hesitated. "Time will tell." As they left, the castle loomed anew. Not as a prison, but a possibility. Yet, questions lingered, debates ignited in the town and beyond. With the court's gavel still echoing in his mind, Elijah stepped into the castle as its rightful owner, the weight of stone walls now his to bear. The transition was anything but smooth. The Hawthorns lingered like ghosts, their resentment a palpable fog. Richard filed appeals, dragging the process, while Thomas vanished to the city, drowning sorrows in excess. Lydia, ever the opportunist, offered alliance. "We could run this together, modernize it." Elijah considered, but trust was scarce. Jamie's role evolved too. He moved into the cottage officially, their relationship no longer hidden. Mornings brought shared coffee on the veranda, overlooking gardens Elijah once tended as an employee. "Feels surreal," Jamie admitted one dawn. As mist rose from the lawns, Elijah smiled faintly. Surreal or right? Their love, tested by fire, bloomed stronger. Quiet dinners, hand-in-hand strolls. But societal backlash persisted. Local businesses boycotted the estate, citing moral decay. A church group picketed, chanting prayers against sin. Elijah felt the isolation anew, wondering if inheritance was curse or blessing. To counter, he opened the gardens to the public, hosting LGBTQ events, pride picnics, support groups. "This place should heal, not divide," he told Jamie. The first event drew crowds. Families, allies, curious onlookers. A young teen approached Elijah, shy. "Seeing you, it gives me hope." Tears welled. Elijah hugged him. "You're not alone." Jamie beamed, helping with setups. But sabotage struck. Vandalism during the night, rainbow flags torn. Richard's hand? Unproven but suspected. Eleanor, residing in a wing, thawed gradually. Over tea one afternoon, she shared stories of her marriage. "Your father was kind but weak. I resented Maria, but you're innocent." Elijah listened, empathy stirring. "We all carry scars." Their tentative bond irked Richard, who confronted her. "Traitor!" She stood firm. "Enough hate." The family rift widened, Thomas returning briefly to side with Richard in a heated dinner. "This queer takeover ruins our name," Thomas shouted. Elijah interjected calmly. "The name was built on lies. Time for truth." Amid personal growth, Elijah faced internal demons. Nightmares of mockery plagued him, doubts whispering he didn't deserve this. Jamie soothed him in the dark. "You earned it by surviving." Their intimacy deepened, emotional layers peeling. Discussions of future, perhaps marriage, adoption. "A family of our own," Jamie mused. Elijah's heart swelled, but fear lingered. Society's judgment, potential violence. A turning point came with a gala fundraiser for LGBTQ rights, hosted at the castle. Glittering chandeliers, guests in finery. Elijah spoke on stage, voice resonant. "I was mocked for loving who I love, for being who I am. But inheritance isn't just land. It's claiming your worth." Applause thundered. Jamie joined him, their linked hands a symbol. Eleanor attended, nodding approval. Lydia networked, seeing opportunity. But Richard crashed, drunk and raging. "This is blasphemy." He lunged at Elijah, security intervening. "You'll regret this," Richard hissed as he was escorted out. The incident made national news, sparking debates on inheritance, sexuality, family. Supporters flooded with donations. Critics lambasted. Elijah, exhausted, confided in Jamie. "Is it worth the fight?" Jamie kissed his forehead. "Every scar makes us stronger." As appeals dragged, Hargrove uncovered more. Richard's embezzlement from estate funds. Charges loomed, forcing a settlement. Richard fled, disgraced. Thomas apologized grudgingly. "I was wrong. About a lot." With peace settling, Elijah renovated the castle, modern touches blending with history. He and Jamie planned a commitment ceremony in the gardens, inviting all. Eleanor walked Elijah down the aisle, a poignant gesture. Vows exchanged under blooming arches. In mockery and triumph, "I choose you." Guests cheered, the estate alive with joy. Yet, undercurrents remained, whispers of discontent, unresolved prejudices. As months passed, Elijah reflected on the journey. The castle stood as testament to resilience, but questions of forgiveness haunted. He penned a memoir, stirring more controversy. Society evolved slowly, clashes persisting. In quiet moments, Elijah and Jamie dreamed of legacy, perhaps turning the estate into a haven for the marginalized. "We've come far," Elijah said one evening, gazing at stars. Jamie nodded. "And farther to go." The path ahead, fraught with potential pitfalls, promised growth amid the drama. Years blended into a tapestry of change at the Hawthorne estate, now rechristened Harlan Castle in honor of Elijah's lineage. The gardens flourished under his care, symbolizing rebirth, while Jamie's auto shop thrived on the grounds, employing locals from diverse backgrounds. Their marriage, legalized in a simple ceremony witnessed by Eleanor and Lydia, became a cornerstone of stability. Thomas, reformed after therapy, visited occasionally, bonds mending tentatively. Richard, however, remained estranged, his life a shadow of former glory. Yet, societal conflict simmered. A proposed bill in New York targeting LGBTQ rights ignited protests, with Harlan Castle as a rally point. Elijah spoke at events, his story inspiring. We inherit more than property. We inherit the fight for equality. Jamie stood beside him, their partnership a beacon. But backlash intensified. Anonymous threats arrived, echoing old hatreds. One night, a brick shattered a window, scrawled with slurs. Police investigated, but fear crept in. Maybe we should sell, Jamie suggested, worry etching his face. Elijah shook his head. This is our stand. Eleanor's health declined, drawing the family closer. In her final days, she confessed regrets. I enabled the cruelty. Forgive me, son. Elijah held her hand. You're family now. Her passing brought unity. A funeral where old wounds surfaced but healed. Lydia inherited a portion, partnering with Elijah in estate management. We've evolved, she said. Thomas added, thanks to you. Personal trials tested Elijah and Jamie. Infertility struggles in adoption pursuits highlighted biases. Agencies hesitated, citing non-traditional homes. It's discrimination, Jamie fumed. Elijah persisted, advocating publicly. Their persistence paid off. A baby boy, adopted after battles, filled their lives with joy. Little Harlan, they named him, vowing to raise him free of shame. As the castle became a cultural hub hosting workshops, art exhibits, controversies arose. A conservative group sued, claiming it promoted agendas. Courts sided with Elijah, but the fight drained. In quieter times, he and Jamie reflected on origins. From mocked gardener to owner, Jamie marveled. Elijah smiled. With you, anything's possible. The story's ripples extended nationally. Elijah's memoir a bestseller, sparking debates on bastardy laws, gay rights, inheritance equity. Interviews probed, did prejudice fuel your claim? Elijah replied, it fueled my resolve. Jamie's quiet strength shone, their love a narrative thread. In the end, as autumn leaves fell once more, Elijah knelt in the soil, Harlan playing nearby. Jamie joined, family complete. The castle stood resilient, a symbol of triumph over scorn. But questions lingered, inviting reflection on justice and forgiveness. Was Elijah justified in claiming the inheritance despite the family's initial mockery and prejudice?